Welcome to Reality of the Rose with your host, Natalie Sprink.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 206 of Reality of the Rose. I'm your host, Natalie Sprink. Well, I'm back. I know it's been a little while. As I'm sure you're feeling, times are crazy. We got Christmas coming up. We got all the things that have to do with Christmas. Do you think, okay, I'm not trying to generalize here, but it is a generalization, and I feel like it's probably true in 90% of the situations, but does anyone feel like the woman has more stress at Christmas than the man? Because we're the ones that have to typically, okay, just typically, are the ones that have to decorate and think about decorating and think about how to decorate and if it looks good or not. And then we have to, if you have little kids, you've got the elf on the shelf thing now. I'm so happy that my kids were not young when this started. It started just when my kids were getting out of that stage, thank God, because that's not my brain. I don't have time to be creative with where to put the elf, and hopefully there's no little kids listening to this and I'm going to spoil it, but anyway, so they got to worry about that. And then you got to worry about buying gifts for everybody, and you got to worry about wrapping the gifts for everybody. And then you got to worry about the parties that you go to, and what am I going to make for the party? And it, is it going to be like yummy or disgusting, or is it, how am I going to get something in the kids' stocking in the morning without them seeing? And I'll be honest, I feel like from when I was like in my 20s, before I had kids, versus, I'm not blaming my kids on this, but before I had kids versus now, I enjoyed Christmas just a little bit less. And I know that's awful to say. And there's the whole, cliche about appreciating Christmas and remembering the reason for the season, which is the birth of Jesus Christ. And I do, and I wish I could remember that more. But even to this day, I don't have little kids to try and make it special for anymore. Even though I did enjoy that at the time, honestly, and I truly did. That was so fun, because seeing Christmas through a kid's eyes is like fantastic and beautiful. But I have to say, the pressure of it, like, weirdly, when I was starting to put up my decorations, for instance, this is a good for instance, when I started putting up my Christmas decorations this year, when I was getting the boxes out, first of all, I have to tell you a story. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. And this is, I know, random, and it's not going to happen very often, but it just added to it. So where I store my Christmas decorations is in a place where, well, it doesn't matter, but something leaked that is close to where my Christmas decorations are. And this has happened before, and I used to keep my Christmas decorations in a cardboard box, and I changed that to all Rubbermaid containers because it happened before, and I had some pieces ruined because it leaked in the cardboard box. Okay, so I had everything in the Rubbermaid containers. Well, this year I went down to get everything out, and it happened again. The leak was happening again. And I was like, okay, good. And it even was like pooled on top of one of the Rubbermaid containers, because there's like a little indentation. So it was pooled on top of there. And I thought, oh, good though, so it didn't go through, because it's in a Rubbermaid container. That's the whole point of me doing this. Well, one of the Rubbermaid containers had a little crack in it. Yeah. And obviously it had been leaking for a while because the water had pooled on top, gotten into the little crack, and it couldn't have been it's not like it was pouring in that little crack. So it was just a little crack, but it had been happening long enough. There was at least 2 inches of water in this Rubbermaid container. So everything that was in this Rubbermaid container, these were all pretty much like set around decorations. They weren't ornaments or anything, that they were stuff I set around. That's typically how I decorate. And it also had happened long enough that, well, obviously the stuff that was at the bottom was totally saturated, But the stuff that was above it, it had grown mold on it. And I'm talking like so much mold that it was the thick, furry mold. Like I could touch it and it would get all over my fingers because it was like growing that thick. And there was several like wood. They were decorations that were made of wood. And I mean, the wood was just absolutely soaked in it. And that, oh, it was so sad because there were several pieces that were like I'd had for a really long time. And I really loved the pieces, and they just like brought back memories, from like when the kids were little, or when before we had moved, and reminded me sort of our Missouri house, and it just really made me sad. So first of all, that ruined it because I was like home by myself that day, and I already was kind of like dreading. So going back, that's what I was initially going to say. It was for some weird reason, I was dreading putting up the decorations. Not because I love once they're up, and I always know that once I get started decorating, I'm like, I enjoy it and it's fun. But for some reason, getting that out and the task ahead of me, I guess is what it is, just feels like overwhelming for some reason. And I hate that I feel that way, because I remember when I couldn't wait to decorate, and it was like so much fun, and I just enjoyed like the thought of it and the anticipation of it. Now it's shifted to like I like dread it for some reason. Although that does change once I get everything out and like say I start decorating my tree and I get to look at all the ornaments, because I'm not one that decorates a tree really for aesthetics. That sounds weird. I decorate my tree with all of the ornaments I've gotten, or my kids have gotten, or Tim has gotten over the years. So they're all just like personal ornaments that we've gotten from people really since birth for me. And that's, since I'm 29, that's only been 29 years ago. But anyway, so that's what I decorate my tree with, because I love looking at that and just remembering things. Remembering, this one was from 2004. This one was from when I was 10, whatever. Okay. So I enjoy that. But like, it takes me now till I'm actually doing the task before I'm like, okay, this is good. And then I'm done. And I love like sitting on the couch and watching TV with my fireplace going and like looking at the decorations and the lights. So anyway, that has shifted. Maybe that's just also age. Let's go back to the water and the destroyed decorations. So I, in that tote was probably a total of about, I don't know, 15 things from little to big that were decorations. And I think I salvaged about 5 of them, because I just let them dry out to see what they look like, or I was able to, like they were made of tin or something, and I could basically just rinse them off and let them dry. But there was about 10 pieces that I had to just completely throw away and get rid of. A couple of them, actually, I was fine because it wasn't, I don't know, like how sometimes you keep decorations and you're like, why did I keep this? This is not even that cute. But a couple were those. But it was really sad, and I was really pissed, and it just sort of put even more of a damper on the whole day, because just pissed me off so bad, because so yeah, I did get a new Rubbermaid container that they will go in now, and I'm going to make sure. And you're probably saying, don't put your Christmas decorations there. Well, I kind of have to. I mean, I guess I wouldn't have to, but this house does not have all that much storage, so I don't really have a lot of choices in where I store my decorations, especially if I want to get to them easily, because often I have to just move them myself. And yeah, so I don't know, how did I get on this subject even? I was talking about Christmas and anticipating. Oh, and I was talking about how busy it is and why I haven't recorded a podcast. Wow, 10 minutes later. But yeah, so anyway, that has been my Christmas so far. But so actually that day I did get, just to finish the story, I did get everything up. I'm also super weirdly like OCD, about, not OCD. I'm very routine, and like I'll come up with a scheme for my decorations, and I'll be like, ooh, I really like it this way. So because I have zero memory, I have to take pictures of the stuff. Does anybody else do that? Like you take a picture of it because you really like it and you want to be like, I want to remember how I did this because I'll never in a million years remember how I put it up last time. And so that didn't help because I, like 10 things were destroyed and I had to do it different. So it actually forced my brain to have to put things together in a different way. And I actually like how I did it. So maybe that was good that it forced my creativity bone to work a little harder with it, right? Because I don't feel like I am that creative. So yeah, and I had to go to get a few more extra pieces because I I also have the problem in this house of not having a lot of places to put things because the layout of our house is like an open floor plan and we have windows. It's just the way our house is set up. I don't have a lot of different places to put things. Like we don't have a lot of end tables or shelves or even wall space to put things, and also not a lot of floor space either because I can put up one tree. In Missouri, I think I had up, well, two trees and then each one in each of the kids' rooms. But here I don't really have a place to put a second tree, which is actually I don't care that much about, but I just don't. So I have to be really creative with where I put stuff so it doesn't look too busy, if that makes sense, or too much, like too much for the eyes to see. So I have to get a little bit creative of where I put things, and I kind of don't like that because feel like I'm shoving everything into one place. I also don't decorate our bedrooms because no one sees those, and whatever. Anyway, I'm getting too much on a tangent for that. But I did need just a few other things, and I really actually kind of eliminated some things that made it look too cluttered, possibly. Um, so I downsized, but I still bought like only I only had to buy like, let's see, one, two. I got rid of 10 things, and I only bought another 3 or 4 to replace them. So that was pretty good too. Anyway, um, okay, so yeah, that it's just been a busy time, as everybody knows, and I don't even have little kids. So I don't. Sometimes I think back and think, how did I do that? I only had 2 kids, and 3 stepsons, but they weren't there all the time. So I only really had consistently 2 kids to take care of, with the Christmas stuff. But so kudos to all of you that still do all of that. Um, but that is why I haven't recorded anything. Plus, a lot of the bachelors over were waiting for the secret lives of, what am I talking about? I've been talking about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I think I talked about this on the last episode, but I predicted that the reason that The Bachelorette was not going to be starting until March 22nd is because there was going to be a season 4 of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and I was right. If I didn't say that before, I'm going to say it again. I was right, and I said it before. I don't know, maybe people were talking about it already on social media, but I'm pretty frequently on there, and I didn't see anything, and I knew that had to be it because I didn't even discuss her being asked to be on The Bachelorette, and I just thought that was way too strange to be a to not be a topic or a narrative of the show. So we haven't heard when it's going to be released, but I'm assuming it's going to be lined up pretty closely to March 22nd. So, and I also know just now that that's been released and we've heard a lot more talk on TV. I mean, because after Dancing with the Stars ended and we had the whole debacle of Whitney being kicked off, um, and it's been sort of assumed that people got sort of annoyed by the fact that she was so open about coming back to film so that she could have a chance for Dancing with the Stars. And she got a lot of hate about that. And she got a lot of people that appreciated it. I was one that appreciated it because I thought at least she's being honest. Um, so I listened to the Call Her Daddy episode. If you haven't listened to that, that's pretty good, where her and her Dancing with the Stars partner, Mark Ballas, were on, where they talked a lot about um, Alex Cooper asked her individually a lot about her role on Dancing with, or her experience on Dancing with the Stars, and how her revealing that on the show, how she thought that affected it. And just sort of, I had a one-on-one with her. It was a good interview. But then her and Mark talked about how much of a struggle it was. Whitney said she's really used to all the hate online, so it didn't really affect her as much, which good for her. But Mark read one of the comments that they got online about it, and it was just horrible that people talk to them and about them when it's a freaking dance show. Like, go find a life where you're not so invested that you have to project so much hate online towards someone that you don't even know. I just think that's wild. I mean, they use some very vulgar language, but also wishing people to die because of something on a dance show is wild to me. But anyway, also, side note, she has since announced that she is going to be Roxy Hart on Broadway for Chicago. A lot of people actually predicted this as well, and that was accurate. So that's pretty cool. Um, anyway, but also on Alex Cooper's show, they talked about season 4, and Whitney reveals that I guess there's some beef going on between her and Jen. Jen, if you don't know, was also in Dancing with the Stars. And people suspected that there was maybe something going on between them. And so she couldn't talk about it much on Call Her Daddy because it is going to be one of the storylines on season 4. So my guess is, so we'll see. So we'll see the two of them. Training for and doing Dancing with the Stars. And obviously we're going to see, I'm assuming if we're seeing them on Dancing with the Stars in the background and what's happening between them, off screen, we'll also be seeing, I don't know, maybe Taylor Frankie Paul filming Bachelorette. But I'm so curious what they're going to do with that. I really am. That will really, really be I think a very what's the word I want to use, beneficial thing for the Bachelor, and will really break a wall that they probably needed to be broken for us to kind of be able to see some behind the scenes stuff of the filming of the Bachelorette while she's filming it, to have a whole different perspective on the show when we watch it. I would love that. I think that they should do that. Whether they want us to see that angle or not, I don't know. So maybe it won't really be about production of the show, but it'll just be about her life, and how she's interacting with the other girls still, or her family, or whatever the case may be. So that will be super interesting. That season 4, in my opinion. We also have Whitney and Michaela getting along. Actually, Whitney also revealed that her and Michaela are actually kind of closer than I don't know, I want to say that. I can't remember how she said it. Alex asked her who, if she's not close with Jen now, but who is she close to? And she said, really, all of the other girls. And actually, believe it or not, especially Michaela is how she put it. So that's going to be a great season, I think, and also great lead up to the Bachelorette. So, the thing I'm worried about for the Bachelor is it's going to be really hard to follow up to that, like really hard to follow up to that season. So it will be curious to see what they actually do there. Okay, so that being said, I also am here to talk about kind of 2 other things. One, just because we're talking about it now, I am going to discuss the reunion, because the reunion came out a few days ago, And I've watched it and for Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and I was disappointed. Uh, I was disappointed with several things. I didn't think, first of all, I thought Nick did a way better job of being host than Stassi did. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know, but I just think he has a better hosting interview style than Stassi did. Stassi seemed more not willing to really go there with questions that were provocative or that really um, put them in the hot seat, so to speak. I mean, she did a little bit, but it seemed like she was too much of like a friend of the girls, um and I don't think that's good to do that. And maybe having a woman host isn't, that sounds weird maybe, but I think that a woman tends to want to be like friends with them and to uh like side with them. And I know, I don't know, I don't know if that's what it was. It just didn't seem like she really wanted to test them or really wanted to go there with them because she didn't want to offend them almost. I don't know. I didn't really care for her. And I know part of that is the way they cut it, because I'm sure that that was like a 8, 9, 10 hour day, and we had an hour, was it? A little over maybe. Um, you could really also tell how, like, you could tell the editing, you could tell when they cut things, you could totally tell when I at least thought I could, where you were hearing a woman, one of the girls say something, and then they were showing another girl and her facial expression, and you could almost tell that it was, they just picked a different expression from something they were expressing about a different thing that was said and putting it to the background of that girl talking, if that makes sense. There was a lot of off-screen talking where you couldn't see, you weren't looking at the girl saying the words and they were just showing the other girls' reaction. And I felt like there was a lot of just clipping and cutting and editing, and it almost made me second guess a lot of it, if it was even the correct context, like answers to questions that were asked of them. I don't know. I just felt like that was really bad. I also didn't think they finished and ended like they didn't have any resolve with things. I also did not like the aesthetics of it. It looked so amateur. And I personally expect, like, if it was me doing it, obviously it's not going to be that professional because I'm in Allie's old bedroom. But when you're talking about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and a Hulu production, I mean, I'm wanting something better. I'm also used to watching like the reunions on Bravo with Andy Cohen, and those are to the hilt, obviously, but there's no reason this couldn't have been to that level. It just looked like a very amateur product. And I was super disappointed in, like, first of like stuff like this, like the couch that they were sitting on. I think it was too deep. So when they were sitting, like, the couch shouldn't be a cushy, comfortable couch, because like Taylor was like sitting on the edge and hunched over. And then like whoever was next to her, Jen or Macy, let's say, was sitting next to her, and she was like leaning way far back. And then Jen was sitting next to her, and she was kind of like in the middle, but she was also hunched over. And then Michaela was on the end, and she was like leaning on the arm of the chair because it was there. And they just looked like they were like, oh, just go sit there and watch and sit on the couch like you're watching TV. And then they had 5 on one and 4 on the other, which I know they have, is 9. So, but the other girls were like spread out. And then those 5 that were together looked like they were squished on that couch together. And was not appealing to the eye. Like on Bravo's reunions, the women are also dressed to the hilt, which I like that. It's a reunion, and I know these girls were too, but I did not like their dresses. All look like they came from Shein. I did. Ugh, I did not. Whitney's was really the only dress that I liked. The rest of them just look cheap as shit, and I know they can afford something better. And don't they have stylists? I'm so confusing. Taylor, and I appreciate this when they're on the show. I appreciate when they're not wearing makeup and they're in sweats and they're just themselves, like looking like me right now. I appreciate that when during the show. For the reunion, I want them to look really good. I want them to be dialed up. I want them to be all full glam. It didn't look like any of them had lipstick on at all, just bare lipped. And I say that maybe there was one or two, but I remember thinking that none of them looked like they had lipstick on. They didn't look like they really had much makeup on at all, which also looks weird when you're wearing like a formal dress, but you're not barely wearing any makeup and really have no kind of like hairstyle. There was a couple of them that had updos, but like Taylor's hair just looked like it does every day, which, side note, I love her hair, but like, let me see something different for the reunion. Miranda's dress literally looked like it cost her $15 on Amazon. Like the material looked cheap as shit. It was awful. I just the aesthetics were terrible. I just thought they were not good at all. And then I couldn't stop thinking about that when they panned out and showed the camera shots from a distance. It was really obvious because we had one who had good posture. The next one was slouching. The next one was kind of leaning to this side. The next one was sitting all the way back. The next one was leaning on the arm. I mean, it was just nothing like on if you don't watch any of the reunions on Bravo, like all the women are sitting and they're all like sitting with proper like legs crossed. Either they have their legs crossed and like in a very like demure way, so to speak, or if they don't have their legs crossed, they have them together and they have their like feet crossed, underneath them, kind of, like again, like the demure way to do that. And it just felt like they were just sitting there with their, just their legs like down and, even legs partly like apart. It was just icky. Oh, I couldn't stop watching that part of it. It just was not appealing to me at all. And it just seemed cheap. I don't know. It just seemed cheap. Even the couches themselves looked cheap. And the backdrop just was cheap. Everything just looked, I don't know. What is going on with that? And we saw them getting glam. We saw them getting glam in the behind the scenes stuff. But when they took lunch, we saw them taking lunch and them kind of getting fixed up, but they didn't. I don't know. I was just not impressed with the reunion. To me, I didn't learn really much of anything. I mean, the whole thing with what's his name? Why can I not think of Taylor's ex, Dakota? Like he didn't want her to be present. That was a little drama and stuff. And like that part was not bad. So he didn't want the girls present when he came out on the stage. So they all had to leave, and that's when they had lunch. But then as Taylor's watching it, she's getting pissed off at what he's saying because it's, obviously his version, and she wanted to like point out the things that were like what he was saying wasn't accurate. So they have her come in and be like, F this, I'm going to set this straight. And it did feel like that was real. Like I didn't feel like that was a produced moment. Which is again why I'm hoping that the Bachelorette season is going to be so much more authentic and different, because she's just going to do what the hell she wants to. That's what I love about her. It just really looked like she was watching it and was like, screw this, I'm setting this straight. And she just marched out there and like sat between. She didn't want to sit next to someone. She didn't want to sit next to Jordan, so she made herself sit next to these other two guys, and Macy came with her. And they were just like, they just made themselves at home, That part I liked because that seemed real. So with Demi and Jesse, like, I don't know, they went back and forth and fought about that. And, Demi talked about how she has uncovered that she was raped early on. Like, I guess that was something that came out, and she was like super emotional about about that, and also in relation to like her assault charges or her assault accusations against Marciano. So that was kind of something new that was revealed. But I what I heard was that this show, this reunion, was filmed already back in September, and that it, so like, you know, them being like, oh, it's Christmas season, blah 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 blah. Obviously they knew that's what I was, obviously they knew that that's when it was be aired, so they had to act like this was Christmas time. But you know, like all the things, like they didn't even discuss on the reunion anything about Taylor being, or well, I guess they did, they just briefly said it. Oh yeah, they briefly said it. Stassi briefly talked about it, or made the statement, but it was an off face comment, and the sound did sound different. And you might think I'm crazy for even noticing that, but I did. Because they had something like talking about their fame, or talking about, I don't exactly remember what they were talking about, but Stassi was like, oh, you know, you guys got all these opportunities. Like you guys got Dancing with the Stars, and Taylor is now the Bachelorette. Like it was something just real simple like that. But you could just tell in the sound that they added that on extra after. So because that was, anyway, that's what I had read, is that it was filmed way back in September, before Taylor had even been, it had been revealed that Taylor was the new Bachelorette. So a lot of things have happened since then, which is so weird with them, because they're so prominent on social media, that a lot of things have happened since then between the girls that, you know, obviously aren't discussed at the reunion. And you would think that the topic of Taylor being the Bachelorette would have been a topic that they would have discussed. I don't know. It was just not. And I think the fact that because even on Bravo, they're recording these reunions like further into the season. Like when you're watching the season, like for instance, Salt Lake City is probably about halfway through right now, and they recorded the reunion this past week. So it's much more real time, and after we've already seen a lot of the shows, and they can discuss, you know, topics and where they stand now, and it's more accurate. But anyway, so that was my thoughts on that. To end this, I want to, like, I don't know, this was sort of a little fascinating thing I just kind of realized when I was, you know, watching, as usual, all my TV shows that I watch. And I don't know, I thought it might be something that I may start discussing a little bit more on the podcast. We'll see how that goes. I try all kinds of like different things to sort of broaden my horizon with the show, with my podcast, and with expanding my audience and talking about things that might interest like a broader sense of people. But it was kind of interesting, and really, I think a good example of what I'm going to be talking about, and it which is kind of the psychology of watching television, and what you like versus what you don't like, and what triggers you versus what doesn't trigger you, versus what you find appalling versus what you don't think that is that bad. But it just has become really apparent to me that I think like the psychology of watching TV is so dependent really on your psyche. And like for instance, I think it has a lot to do with what you've gone through in life, what age you are, experiences you've had in life versus experience you haven't had in life, versus also the social media aspect. I think all of these things play such a role in our reactions to content that is on television. For instance, I was one of the very few for The Summer I Turned Pretty that was Team Jeremiah. Now, I don't know, I might be out of my realm as far as the age demographic that typically watch this show. I'm probably out of my age demographic for a lot of shows. But that being said, I was Team Jeremiah, not Team Conrad. And I felt like I was one of the very, very few, if not the only one, that was this way. And I really got to thinking about that and got to thinking that, like, I think it's because of like who I am, what age I am, what experiences I've had in life, why I didn't like Conrad, and like his, like the way he treated Bella in the beginning, his sort of like moodiness, his I don't know, not to get into that real specifically and deeply, but I really think that all the qualities that Jeremiah had that I saw that maybe related to things that I've experienced in my life and wanted for Bella were the things that I were the reasons that I was Team Jeremiah. Also, like I mean, like, okay, so that's like an example of what I'm talking about. And also like what the social media. I had not really seen much social media about that show because I didn't really, that wasn't in my algorithm, right? And so I think the world was so Team Conrad that I think it just things like that, social media gets into the back of our heads more than we think it does. And like the more you are Team Conrad, the more you'll see the things that are going to show you like why people are Team Conrad or why they're not Team Jeremiah. And it sort of validates you in your beliefs. And obviously that is how social media works. We all know that too. But so sometimes I like to see what I'm seeing on social media and go, okay, like I see that, but like what could be the other side of that? Or like, oh, I see that, but I don't really agree with that if I'm being honest. If I'm being really honest with myself, I don't really agree with that. And I think we tend to, and most people, why are you going to question it that much? It's a TV show, it's not that deep. I get that. But I'm just trying to go somewhere and just raise some questions for my podcast because I want to and because it's interesting to me. But I also think like, we don't watch TV shows because maybe we don't agree with a narrative or like somewhere that we sit politically isn't, we don't align with something that the TV show has. So we will avoid watching that TV show or, I don't know, any number of things that can happen. Like for instance, with this Mormon Wives reunion, um, like me caring about the aesthetics of watching the reunion is probably something that other people didn't notice. But I feel like because I watch so many Bravo shows and because I have seen so many reunions, that part of my brain was like, wow, this is like so different than normal. Even other reunions like Love is Blind or anything, that just seems so much better. But I don't know. I think I'd like to kind of delve into that and take a show and an angle of the show or something that's happening in the show um and expand on that a little bit. So like a good example of that is something that we watched. Tim and I just watched last night. And I'm not trying to call him out on anything, but I guess I will kind of. And I feel like it's something that would not be that uncommon with a man in general. Okay. So we were looking for something to watch on TV, and it's kind of hard for us to find some things that I feel like I'm definitely more open because I'm definitely more open to different genres of TV, especially if it means him and I being able to watch something together. Like my preference is reality TV. It's just what I like. He definitely is like preferences like shoot 'em up movies, like westerns, stuff that has a lot of drama in it. That's just what he tends towards, right? So we actually together watch a lot of the Taylor Sheridan shows. Like we watched Yellowstone. We started watching that together. Then all of those offshoots of Yellowstone, like 1924 or 1878 or whatever, all of those. We also watch now. Mayor of Kingstown is actually one of our favorites, and I really, really like that show. It has Jeremy Renner in it. It's very, very dark, and it's very like um, they use a lot of crude language. It's very violent, but it's a really good show. So we watch that. We watch Landman now, which is another really good one. We've watched Lioness. That's another really good one. But all of these are definitely more like his type of show, so to speak, if I, want to say it that way. Um, so we watch those, but I definitely feel like these are really two examples. Let's say Landman. Okay, so in Landman, Billy Bob Thornton is in it, and so is Allie Larder, and Allie Larder plays his wife. Demi Moore is also in it, and Allie Larder, I is his wife. She's super over the top. I'm not a big fan of her character, um, because, well, anyway, but they have. This is season 2 that they're currently on, and they have gone in a direction where they're it's about the oil industry if you don't watch it. And they started off last season and they focused a lot on that part of it, like the industry and things that happen behind the scenes and whys and all of that. It really was fascinating. But then, they always have to, and you just know that they have that in every TV show. They still have their parts of like a husband and wife story or about two young people falling in love or whatever. Even if it's dramatic and it's not like fuzzy, warm and fuzzy, they still have those offshoots and those topics. And I think they do that so that they bring in a bigger audience. Tim hates that. So like this season, they have tended more towards some of that more frivolous and superficial sort of storyline between he and his wife and between his son and his girlfriend and some things like that. And like that bugs the shit out of Tim. Like he absolutely can't stand, I don't even know if I'm gonna watch this show anymore. They're getting into all these other storylines I don't care about. They started with teaching us about the oil industry and what happens with that. Now they're deviating. Like that totally pisses him off, and he hates that they do that. He kind of said the same thing about Yellowstone when they kind of started doing that. But I think that that's because Tim is who he is. And he's not that like, he hates rom-coms. He doesn't like to watch those. I can't get him to watch. If I do, he'll watch 10 minutes of it and he'll be asleep. But I do, obviously, or I don't mind it. I like both parts of it. But that's definitely a difference between, a man and a woman. And I know that there's some men that will watch pretty much anything with their wives, and that's great. But like Tim is not one of those people. And now we've been married also for 28 years. But so like I think those things are so interesting as far as like the psychology of a TV show. I have always been a pop culture person from young on. Like I've talked about this before, where I subscribe to Us Weekly, the magazine, and I look forward to reading every single word of that magazine. I feel like I like all of that stuff. I have my preferences, but I'll pretty much watch anything. And take my own views from it. But the specific also, sorry, that was kind of random, but so that's like one example of how people are so different with what they watch and what they enjoy and what they don't. But the specific thing that I was actually going to start talking about was last night when we were looking for something to watch. And there's several things. I also enjoy documentaries. He doesn't mind them, but it has to be the right documentary or he gets bored with it. So I found a Netflix series called The Bandits, and maybe you've heard of this, but it's basically a Western. And I thought, oh, great. It's a Western. He'd like this. We watched the trailer. However, this Western is more focused on the main characters being women, and women in like the more authoritative position in the show. How usually in the Westerns, it's like the men obviously they're more focused on the men, and the men like play the main role and play like the bad guy and the villain, and the women are usually like the whores. I'm just saying, like the whorehouses, they play them, or they play the madam of the whorehouse, or they play the wife or the woman they fall in love with. And it might be like a strong character, and she might be like, they might show badass parts of her, but she's always like the love interest, so to speak, or usually. Well, this one is definitely like the woman are the main characters, and um it's like between two main women who like are opposing each other, okay? And when we watched the trailer, I'm just gonna say, if that was all men in it, I really feel like Tim would have been like, yeah, let's watch that because it's a series. And I watched it and I was like, hey, this looks good. This looks like he like it. And he was like, really? You think that looks good? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? I said, it's a Western. What else could you want? It's shoot 'em up. It's like guns and fighting and everything else. And so finally he agreed we'd watch it. And, like whatever, like the main villain woman would like do something or make like some proclamation to the town or something, and he'd go, oh, give me a break. Oh, whatever. Whereas I know if I don't even think he catches himself doing it. I really don't. And I think that like if that would have been a man saying that to the town, we are watching a regular Western, he wouldn't have even made a comment. You know what I mean? And there was like several points in that. And I called it out once. I was like, you're just saying that because it's a woman. He was like, that's not true. That's stupid. If a man was saying that, I'd say the same thing. But I don't know. I don't believe him. I think that, like, we're just geared in our heads to think that a Western has to involve all men and cowboys. And I just found that fascinating, and it's like stuff like that I notice, and reasons why. And I feel like I'm able to like analyze that, say when I watch a TV show with Tim, where I know him so well, and I feel like I know, like, if he has a comment about the TV show, why he's viewing it that way based on, what I know about him and his past. And I say his past like he's got some past no one knows about, but I'm just saying, like, his situation, his childhood and all of that. So maybe it's easy for me to analyze that with him, or if I'd be watching it with one of my kids and stuff that they would like versus not like, and why. But anyway, so I think that I might, like get deeper into that, and like watch a TV show and take something that maybe like triggers me, or like offends me, or something that I don't like, and why I feel like I didn't like that, or why someone might think they do like that. Like, like I feel like, honestly, like an older generation's perspective, and again, this is a generalization of, like, say, homosexuality, and watching that in a show, and why they might not watch a show because it has that in it, and things like that affect how you view a show, its content, if you want to watch it, if you have a strong opinion about something or not have a strong opinion about something. I think that that's just it's like a pop culture angle of psychology and the TV that we watch, and how that plays into. I just think that television and movies in general are really, for most of society, play a big role in our lives, and more than we think, um, and can tell us things about each other, if that makes sense. So anyway, yeah, I guess I'm going to sign off now because I'm getting close to an hour. Also, I wanted to mention that my Wrapped, from Spotify, has been released. Obviously, all of you probably know that, because you've all received your Wrapped for the year. And so I think I'll share that to social media. It seems that my stats for how they keep track of them look really good, and I appreciate that from you guys. I ask that you continue to do all the things that help me. Please comment on my episodes. Go to YouTube and watch them on YouTube if you'd like to. You can watch this on Spotify. You can listen to it on any platform that you like, but hit follow, hit subscribe, hit like, go follow my TikTok, go follow my Instagram. All the things that help a podcast helps me. And I would just love to hear from you guys if you have any input on anything. But yeah, I appreciate it. So I'll be back again. Not sure when, but you'll see me when you see me. And, just be calm, be strong, be kind, and be grateful. Bye.